Consideration of His Honour the Lieutenant Governor's speech. Adjourned debate. Ms. Smith.
The honourable member for Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo.
Come up for speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I was pleased to hear in the government's throne speech its commitment that Alberta remains a beacon of opportunity for Albertans new and old who desire to build a stronger, modern, better province together. The Lieutenant Governor noted that Alberta is the economic engine of Canada. This is indisputable. But, Madam Speaker, the citizens of the region that I represent would want me to remind this government that the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo is home to the industry that is the economic engine of Alberta. Unprecedented activity in Alberta's oil sands generates prosperity that is shared from Medicine Hat to High Level, from Lloydminster to Grand Prairie. This prosperity is the envy of provincial jurisdictions from Victoria to St. John's and benefits Canadians from all provinces and territories. I am certain that the Government of Canada is at least as grateful for Alberta's fiscal contributions to Confederation as are the members of this legislature, since it actually derives a greater aggregate benefit from oil sands production than this province. In fact, some analysts have estimated that the oil sands now account for nearly 10% of Canada's GDP. That burgeoning prosperity, however, brings with it explosive population growth, as many as 100,000 new Albertans every year. And no community is better acquainted with the decade-plus challenge of addressing 7 to 16% annual growth than Fort McMurray and Wood Buffalo. Growth that fantastic puts pressure on land development, transportation infrastructure, education, health, human support services, policing, and the very social fabric of a community. The designation of the Urban Development Subregion in June 2013 will begin finally to ensure the availability of developable land in Fort McMurray that will stabilize housing prices and make it possible for new oil sands workers and their families to take up permanent residence in Fort McMurray, to pay taxes in this province, to strengthen the social fabric of this province, to harness their personal energies to build Alberta, one Albertan at a time. And so I am encouraged to see the throne speech reaffirm the government's commitment to Twin Highway 63 from Grasslands to Fort McMurray, and very pleased that this project remains on schedule for completion in 2016. I worked very hard, as this government knows, to help steer that project with my report titled Towards a Safer 63, tabled in June 2012, and I'm proud to have been part of fulfilling this promise to my constituents. Too many sons, daughters, fathers, and mothers have been lost on a highway that is inadequate for the nature and volume of traffic that flows to and from the region. But as the government's own 2010 CRISP report amply demonstrates, Twinning Highway 63, even at a cost of more than $800 million, while substantial, is merely the first step in a more comprehensive infrastructure program that must be delivered if Alberta is to safely and responsibly grow oil sands production and to justify its international efforts to secure new pipeline capacity and new markets around the world. Because they are awarded based on per capita funding formulas, Municipal Sustainability Initiative and Green Trip funding are not adequate to keep up with that growth. The census data on which such grants are awarded are based on yesterday's numbers, not tomorrow's projections. At the same time, however, the government's own financial capacity is constrained by inconstant revenues and the aftermath of last summer's floods, the largest natural disaster in Canada's history. And so I strongly encourage this government to embrace the innovation that it champions and to explore with stakeholders the alternative delivery and finance instruments being proposed within Wood Buffalo to support the design, construction, and maintenance of new transportation infrastructure essential to our continued prosperity. It may be that government should not pay for every kilometre of pavement to support resource extraction. But government must be the enabler of a new way of doing business so that oil sands producers, railroads, and other private sector parties can make meaningful contributions to transportation infrastructure. Speaking of the impact of last June flood events, Fort McMurray was one of two communities cited in August by the province as deserving special consideration to maintain its downtown development in a potential floodway. The throne speech specifically mentions that this government will make firm the commitment to build community mitigation projects in flood-affected communities. The Wood Buffalo Regional Council has already introduced measures to protect Fort McMurray that will cost approximately $160 million in order to comply with the government's 100-year flood requirements. I look forward to hearing how the government will assist my community to meet those requirements in this budget. Government also committed to investing in better seniors' care, focusing on aging-in-place developments. As all members of this Assembly are aware, Fort McMurray has been advocating for more than a decade for its first long-term care facility, the only such facility in a community of 80,000 people that, if it were available, would free an entire floor of our critical care hospital. I know that Alberta Health, Alberta Infrastructure, and Alberta Municipal Affairs are all in discussion with the regional municipality to bring this vision to fruition. Not just long-term care, but the full spectrum of aging-in-place accommodations for those Albertans who helped to convert the oil sands from Canada's largest research and development project to the engine of its economy, and who are now entering the sunset of their lives. I urge the government to bring these negotiations with both the local and federal governments to a rapid close and to break the ground on this long overdue facility in the current calendar year. Finally, I am heartened to see a renewed commitment to education and post-secondary education that recognizes the important contributions that will be made by the generation just now entering adulthood to Alberta's prosperity over the next several decades. The several endowment funds and additional funding for the Alberta Heritage Scholarship Fund to support apprenticeship, trade and technology students announced in Bill 1 will be welcomed by my constituents. We in Wood Buffalo know well the deficit of skilled tradespeople required to be overcome if we are to grow Alberta's prosperity. Further support for the Campus Alberta model also suggests to me that there are new opportunities for Keano College to expand its offerings and to become the nucleus for advanced education in Northern Alberta. I anticipate hearing about exciting new developments between government and the college from President Kevin Nagel in the coming year. The funding for these new education initiatives is coming from our savings, and as any parent would tell you, making long-term investments in your children's education is always wise. However, as I emphasized when I began, I hope this government is equally committed to enabling long-term investment in critical infrastructure that will also allow Alberta to grow its revenues, making it easier to fund new initiatives without diminishing our savings account, and providing the necessary foundation for new opportunities to be realized by our better educated children and our children's children. Mr. Speaker, I have never said that government should operate like a business, but rather it should operate with sound business practice. As such, we need to ensure that we provide strategic investment where we will realize our greatest returns. This province has weathered more than one storm since the global economic contraction in 2008. It is time now to take stock of our opportunities, obligations, and aspirations, and to make wise choices that will yield meaningful dividends in the 20 years. And for that reason, I'm looking forward to the upcoming process and estimates for the government's budget for 2014-15 to find evidence of those choices. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Standing Order 29-2A, if anybody's interested in asking